Andy Walden, the Vice President of Enterprise Research Strategy at ICE, joins me now to talk more about it. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Pete.
So we're talking about rates, and as we know, rates have remained elevated for the past 2 years. How has that really reshaped expectation across the housing market?
And it's really transitioned the landscape of what the mortgage market looks like and the mortgages and interest rates that folks hold across the U.S. There are 4.8 million fewer sub 4% mortgages than there were just a couple of years ago. There are 4 million more 6.5% plus mortgages than there were a couple of years ago. And that does a couple of different things. One, we've all talked about that lock-in effect. Folks unwilling to list their home for sale because they have that low rate. That's gradually wearing off, and I emphasize gradually. It's going to be a slow process. What we're also seeing is the market kind of transitions, is this pocket of higher interest rates loans building that could be potential refinance candidates as interest rates fall. Again, there are about 4 million of those 6.5% plus. Of those, a little under 2 million have 7+% interest rates that could move into the money for a refinance if and when rates fall.
Yeah, I want to talk a little more about refinancing. I mean, we all remember the days of 2020, 2021, where refinancing made up a significant portion of the business, people locking in 2.5%, 3% loans. When do we see that really ramping up refinancing efforts as we see rates falling around 6%?
Yeah, and if we use the data as our guide here, and we kind of look at the distribution of interest rates that folks hold out there in the market, I mentioned a little bit ago, 2 million folks have taken out mortgages with rates above 7% over the last couple of years. But when you look at every kind of eighth of a point from 7 to 7.5%, there are only about 250,000 loans sitting in each one of those eighth of a point bands. And so we're picking up these gradual volumes as interest rates have fallen. You just mentioned a second ago, interest rates fell down to closer to 6.75% this week. And so you're picking up a little bit of modest volume as they come down. What we also see is there are a lot of folks that have taken out mortgages right at the top of the 6% threshold. Folks that didn't want to see a 7 at the front end of their mortgage. They bought down to get that high 6% rate. There are about 750,000 loans sitting right there. And then as you get below that, you're closer to the 400 to 500,000 loans per eighth of a point. And so that could be a little bit of a tipping point towards more meaningful refinance volumes when those high 6% loans start to have incentive to refinance. That would probably mean low 6% 30-year rates, high 5% 30-year rates is when you start to see a little bit more meaningful volumes, albeit still historically low, but more meaningful than what we've been seeing in recent quarters.
Yeah, and think about that, obviously people want low rates, people want to get the best rate possible. 68% of borrowers in a recent survey said that the lowest rate is the most important. Pretty obvious for us all. I'm surprised it wasn't higher. But what your data finds from the Mortgage Monitor is that a significant number of borrowers are only speaking to 1 or 2 lenders. So what's going on here? What could buyers do to basically do due diligence and find out, perhaps there's a 4th or 5th lender out there?
Yeah, you're right. And that data came from the 2024 Borrower Insight Survey from ICE. I'd encourage folks to go out there and take a look at it, whether you're a borrower or a lender in the space. A lot of great insights in that report. But you're right, unsurprisingly, the vast majority of folks said interest rates are the number one item for them. Second came fees. And I think that's an important component, right? I think a lot of folks shopping out there for mortgages are just looking at the rates, which are obviously important. I think maybe they may not know quite as much about the fees and the fact that fees will vary from lender to lender as well. So be informed when you're a prospective home shopper and mortgage shopper out there in the market that fees will vary, and make sure you're looking at that component as well. And then what you have up on screen here, folks are primarily looking at 1 to 2 options. So make sure you're shopping for that best rate. There's a lot of places out there that you can shop to make sure you're getting the lowest rate and lowest fee on your mortgages. It's National Mortgage Broker Day. If I'm looking at this from a mortgage broker, what that tells me is I want to be the first 1 to 2 lenders to the table there, make sure that I'm top of mind for borrowers. And obviously a lot of platforms and a lot of solutions through ICE that can help brokers stay top of mind and make sure that they're paying attention to those analytics. When are borrowers gaining incentive to refinance? Make sure you're following those appropriate outreach techniques as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Andy. A pleasure to have you on. All the viewers should definitely check out Mortgage Monitor and everything you're doing, and we'll definitely talk to you soon.
All right, appreciate it, Pete. Thanks.